This morning, we're exploring the extra demands on Devon's hospice services during the pandemic, from people not wanting to go into hospitals to the impacts of a delayed diagnosis on things like cancer. So, what is life like for the staff working at the sharp end? Based at St Luke's in Plymouth, Selina Rogers is a healthcare assistant for its urgent care service, providing hospice care in people's homes.
Since the pandemic has begun, we're seeing a lot more patients than what we would do normally. Like, the turnover is a lot quicker. Where ordinarily our patients would be with us for, 40 days, people now are only staying with us maybe even just for 24 hours, where we seem to be doing a lot more like crisis intervention. So we will get a referral through from a district nurse or a GP or our specialist nurses, and we can go in and be with a patient just for a 24-hour period, and then they die. We believe that maybe it could be people with family members being furloughed that they've been able to care for their family members at home, maybe as to why that's happening. But also it could be that people aren't going in and seeing their doctors and going into their GP select surgeries and seeing their doctors for fear of what's been going on in the pandemic. So again, why we could be seeing people later on with the progression of their illness.
With a late diagnosis, what effects does that have on families?
Well, with the late diagnosis that people are getting now, it is the shock of what's to happen, and where funeral, like they even think about like the funerals and what's going to happen, where ordinarily they would have lots of family there to support. They have the concerns about that. They have concerns about what they would have to do because the process now is all changed when a person dies. It's, again, that's why we go in and we support them and we guide them and do the very best that we can for them to make this really, awful situation just that little bit easier to deal with, to take away some of that stress and worry for them so they can be with their loved one in that very short period of time that they're now having to, only have with their relatives or friends for that matter.
Obviously, you're very highly trained, Selina, but how does everything affect you? And it must go beyond your working hours each day, that effect.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very lucky. We have got a really good supportive team of people where we can we seem to counsel one another because of the amount of people that we're seeing dying at the moment. We have our whiteboard of our patients where we can come in on our shift and then have our couple of days off, and we come back in and our patients have completely changed where they've died. And sometimes it's very difficult to get our heads around the fact that this is happening, that we're seeing so many people die. Just in one day we can have up to 4 or 5 people die. As recently we've seen that. So try and support the families and support one another through this process has been really difficult. And because we're a very compassionate, very tactile service, not to be able to give people that cuddle and that reassurance, that hug is just awful, really, because you're having to stand back in our PPE and, so we have to get back in our cars after we've been with a patient and their family, and then we have to talk to one another because we can't even cuddle each other. We have to sit with our masks on, and so it's very difficult to try and see a way through this, but we get there and we do it.
The number that you give us, Selina, 4, maybe 5 a day.
Yeah.
How does that compare with pre-pandemic?
So before the pandemic began, we would have people, maybe for 3 to 4 weeks that we would look after. For a week, we'd maybe see 1, 2 deaths. But now we're seeing that on a daily basis, where we will see up to we're having at least a death a day, and it does increase. The most we have had is 5 in one day, and that is an extreme amount of people that we're losing when we're used to that over a week, 2-week basis, not just in a day.
And of course, there would be effects on the families of those individuals.
Yes, so, we are there to support the patients, but we're also there to support the families with, especially through the first lockdown where a lot of family it was just, say it was their husband, for example, who was poorly. It was just the wife in the home because family members weren't able to go around there. So they're having to do this all on their own. So we were there to support them and help them and just be that, we shoulder to cry on. Yeah, and if we're not able to answer, we will source the answer for them and support them. We've got a great social care team as well within our service that can support families, which is wonderful.
That's Selina Rogers, healthcare assistant for St Luke's Urgent Care Service, providing hospice care in people's homes. What a job Selina and her colleagues do. And Selina asked me to say that she and her colleagues would like to send their grateful thanks to all the local communities for their continued support of hospices.